And here we are, ladies and gentlemen, back once again for the League of Legends Elite Series 2nd Division here on the Rift Entertainment channel. And of course, I shall not be hosting this alone because I'm once again accompanied by none other than the one, the only, Fresh Tana. Welcome back, how you doing?
I'm doing fine, man. I'm doing fine. Had a long day, and now I'm sitting here with you, next to you, and it will be a wonderful wonderful day because we have so many exciting games. We have like one of the most exciting matchups of maybe the whole season, and it will be a banger.
Maybe we can bring up the schedule for today in order to talk more deeply about it, because it is indeed one of the biggest matchups, and it's already been heating up on the Twitterverse, so to say, between those two teams. But before we get to that, let's look at the first few matchups we have. We have PERTINAX Esports going up against Reapers Gaming, which should also be a very interesting matchup, especially after last week's or last Friday's performance from PERTINAX against Riftsloffs. Being able to almost turn the game around, which was kind of insane. I think you can agree on that.
What a turnaround.
Yeah, absolutely. And going up against Reapers, which also have some spark in them stills, and especially those two teams being tied currently at the 4th spot, it's a very important matchup to finally decide who of the two is better in the second part of the split, and maybe have a better chance at keeping that 4th spot to go into playoffs soon.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, that was the matchup where I said it is maybe the most important matchup. But yeah, I mean, Dynasty against Rislot, also really important, at least for the top. But I thought it's way more important to see which team gets into the top side of the bracket and which teams get on the lower side of the bracket. And it's our first matchup of the day, so that definitely is a banger already. And I think we have a small little information from the admins as well. If you want to see it, just go on to the Twitter account of the Elite Series LOL, where you can see it. And it just states that sadly, Adverse will being disqualified from the tournament. That's of course because of some unfortunate stuff happening, that they couldn't wield a roster and stuff, and with that, all the wins against Adverse will be removed, and all the losses, of course, as well. So we will just have one less team in the league, which means that our last match of the day, Aurora against Adverse, will be not skipped, but just Aurora will not play because they instantly won because of Adverse disqualification. And that's really interesting because with that we have just one team which will needs to play relegation, and then we have like 3 teams from the amateur tournament coming into it, so that we have 4 teams battling each other to get into this Division 2.
Yes, we'll have a lot more movement around there than originally planned, and that's a very great opportunity for teams who would participate in the amateur circuit to eventually join the division, the 2nd division. It's now or next time, but the chances are slightly higher this time around. So definitely look forward to that. So let's get into tonight's first matchup. A lot to talk about. We have PERTINAX going up against Reapers Esports, 2 teams which both teams came from the circuit earlier. They were not invited to the 2nd division, if I recall correctly. 2 teams which are perfectly tied currently in the standings, and 2 teams which, while they didn't have a perfect run through the division right now through the split, I mean, being 5-5 in terms of wins and losses, 2 teams who can still surprise us very much. We've seen that last week with PERTINAX's win, and Reapers, which have shown us before the start of the splits how strong they can be. So definitely a matchup that should be one hell of a banger, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Reapers really started well in the season and then kind of lost a lot of games in a row, and then I think it's like the opposite of PERTINAX, which I think they started really slow and then like got a lot of pace with winning some clutch games, and then of course we all remember like the last match against Riftlots where Merlin just put out a rapid out of the head and somehow aced them, and then they did it again, and just 10k gold just disappeared. What a magical trick from Merlin, but in the end they couldn't win it. So PERTINAX definitely looks really, really strong as a lineup, as a unit, and I think Reapers are not like on a good pace right now, and with that, PERTINAX should sit in the driver's seat and definitely be the favorite of today's match.
And it's very important to take that wheel then and lead it where you want to, because as we've mentioned earlier, it is the tiebreaker match for them, and the strongest deciding factor in who is gonna play playoffs and who is not, their best chance to dissociate themselves from each other, because well, they're the most tied teams, and the next few matchups we can have a better idea how they're going to go. Plus, there is not that many matches left ahead if we look at this. So we have this week 7 still going on, and then we'll only have week 4, which has to be played again since it was rescheduled. That's not that many matches left. 4 matches for each teams. Things can swing rather fast, but there's also not that much playing ground anymore. So today is definitely an important match for both those teams.
Yeah, and I think we last on the last match of PERTINAX, we already saw like a different top laner, which will not playing today. So Drop comes back, but they definitely got a little update on the lineup, because I think they signed Bodo, a Danish support for the support position. So Leaks is out, or just out of this game at least. And so they will today play with Bodo on the bot lane, and then just the standard standard lineup. And I think Reapers will just play with their 5 standard players as well. So the full lineup, the full strong lineup from Reapers. So that could definitely be a banger matchup.
Yes, so look ahead for that, be prepared, and of course not to put any shadow on the other matchups, because every match is usually a banger here in the second division of the Elite Series League of Legends. I don't think there was any week where we were like, oh, those matches are not that interesting. It's always a lot of action, always a good League of Legends high quality gameplay we got to see here, and just teams which do their best, and that's beautiful to see every time.
Yeah, and like even a matchup with Aroma against Once Upon a Team, that could be really, really good for Once Upon a Team if they win, because I mean it's a tough task, but in the end, now with Adverse disappearing from the board, they of course need to wiggle out of the last place, and maybe if they get a couple of wins, they can just put Aurora onto the last place. So just sneaking in a win today would be really favorable for them. But of course, our Oma looks really, really strong right now, and they are probably in this matchup the big favorites. And Once Upon a Team, as underdog, needs to do a lot right to win such a matchup.
Yes, but the chances are, of course, always there. It's League of Legends. You're never 100% sure what's going to happen. So good luck to both teams in there. And then last game, which we're going to see for today, is Dynasty against Rift Slavs. There has been a kind of a meme war going on Twitter between, Rift Slavs and Skalm, who solely carries Dynasty in terms of memes currently, waging war on there. And it's been a delight to see all of that, and I think we're going to have a delight seeing that match today, because we can't forget, last time we had this matchup, it went really good for Dynasty, because they took the first blow at the Rift Slavs, they took the first win against them. So are they going to be able to keep on track with that, or are Rift Slavs going to be able to redeem themselves in this matchup and take a win back? I think both teams are going to be at the highest. We've probably seen them throughout the season, so it's going to be interesting as well to see.
Yeah, and like at the moment, if Aoma, and we probably can think about that this will happen, if they win, then they will just have 9 wins and 2 losses. And if Dynasty wins against Rift, then we have like 3 teams on the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So they could all go even in like our standing. So that would be incredible to see like 3 teams edge to edge, and everybody of them just can win against each of them. So that's definitely like the highest competition you can have on a league if you have no clear favorite.
Mm-hmm.
And so today's matchups can definitely show us who's the best, may because if Rift Slots can just keep up the pace and win, then at least like they will divide Aoma and Dynasty, because
Mm-hmm.
Dynasty then will have like 3 losers, and if Aoma wins, then they have just 2. So then we would have a clear first, clear second, clear third. But we could still end up in a big tiebreaker at the end of this match day, at least. So that would be really interesting.
Yes, there is this completely unstable situation on top of the standings here, which has been like thrumbled through multiple times, and which can always be brought back to this absolute equilibrium of everybody sharing the first spot. So it's been really interesting to see those teams go up against each other, go up against other teams, having those surprise wins coming in, which we might not have expected. It's a banger to see, and while we're pretty sure those teams will be playing the playoffs, there is this slight off chance that it doesn't happen, but they should probably be playing playoffs. The matches we're gonna have there are gonna be absolutely beautiful because they're so close to each other in terms of skill. I can't wait to be there.
Yeah, definitely. And I think at least from what I saw on Wikipedia, is that I think Aoma now with at worst being like disqualified, at least that's what the standings there looks like, is now set. I think Rift Slot was almost set as well, or they should be set as well. So, but they are now missing one more win because they got denied from the win versus at worst. So that's why they dropped a little bit. But anyway, though we will see like the real standings after this match, and I think like most of the playoffs candidates will be determined on the next couple of match days, and it's really just about the 4th place team, which we could really like think either it's PERTINAX or Repass. I think not that Aroma or Once Upon a Team can really climb to the playoffs anymore. At least that's my prediction. And I think I had like a little bet going on with Daniel, so that I think Repass will make playoffs, and I think he betted for PERTINAX. But what's your opinion? Who do you think will make the playoffs race in the end?
I mean, both are teams which I absolutely like to see, but taking into consideration the next few matchups, I do think that PERTINAX has the upper hand in that sense, because if we look at end of this week, Friday, PERTINAX is going to go up against Aurora. Reapers is going to go up against Dynasty, and those matchups will be repeated. And I think in those matchups, PERTINAX in theirs are clear favorites, while Reapers are not favorites in their matchup against Dynasty, which have a very strong team. Although I've seen you can always be surprised, and I would actually give it to Reapers to take the win against a team like Dynasty. I would also absolutely give it to Aurora to take a win against PERTINAX. But let's say from a purely statistical point of view, and a purely logical one, I would give my money to PERTINAX on that.
Yeah, definitely. Like this repeating week 4 because of course of the earthquake in Turkey and Syria, we had to postpone like week 4. So we will of course like replay week 4, and with that we will see this matchup Aurora PERTINAX 2 times. And yeah, I can definitely see why they could have the upper hand in such a matchup than in a really, really close matchup with Dynasty and Reapers. I mean, to be fair, Reapers still is a pretty strong team.
Yes.
So I definitely could see them winning each game from now. It's just because the individual players are really, really strong. I'm really enjoying the top lane gameplay from Wind. I really like Law, for example, just an amazing player in the mid lane. So they have really individuals who can definitely carry those games, but somehow as a team it doesn't make click. Yeah, so they can't really connect as a team as much as other teams in this league. So I think that's the biggest weakness right now. And so maybe if they manage to handle that for the last few matches, then they still have a chance. But of course, PERTINAX, especially as a team, looks really, really strong. And even though they sometimes play with substitutes, for example, like we saw last match day with Jatko on the top lane, for example, or no, they will play with Bondo, so a really new player for them. They still handles to play as a team that amazingly that they almost won against Rift Slots in a really, really not even close game. I mean, they almost got stomped and then just clutched out 2 clean aces or something. So as a team, the gameplay as a group really works much better than for Reapers. And so I think maybe my bet for Reapers will disappoint me. Maybe, who knows? But in the end, the better team, of course, will take it away. And PERTINAX definitely would be just the same Cinderella story like with Reapers. I mean, you already mentioned that both teams came into this league in the closed qualifier, so it's always a Cinderella story if a team who comes from the outside just gets into playoffs and maybe even higher. So for both teams, this story is really wonderful. So they both deserve it, and I'm quite sure that we see a really, really huge matchup for today.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what you said is very interesting. Reapers maybe a bit lacking in terms of their team cohesion compared to other teams. But they have it at their advantage that this is the kind of things that always grows over time, especially in such a division where you play 7 weeks together against the same teams, getting to know them. This team cohesion always grows steadily. Teams which already have that will not grow as much. There's the ceiling point where you don't grow that much anymore, and maybe you do get better teamwork, but not tremendously. While if you don't have it, it might explode at some point, which could give them this element of surprise here at the end of the split, and bring them up a step, which could give them indeed some few wins. And then, I mean, as I said, they have this deciding match. The next few also, of course, count. But you never know what can happen. This is the beauty of League of Legends. Can always have an upset happening when you least expect it.
Yeah, and then of course you already talked about the surprises which some teams brings in, and I think that's definitely something I want to talk about is Hexu or Haxu. We will not see him because of course he is the mid laner of Aurora, and they will not play today. But he just in the last week just brought in the Viego mid lane, the Kled mid lane, so many surprise picks by such a player. And I think he carried with the Viego definitely, and then they lost it with the Kled, but still that's really something I like about this league. Are those individuals who just bring some fresh wines into the meta and just bring in some crazy champions, some crazy picks. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't work. With the Swain bot lane for Batu, which worked really well, and then I think there was a Swain mid lane against Haxu's Viego, which didn't work. I think it was on Spintu from Once Upon a Team, and so those surprise picks really are great to see in such a league. And it's really sad to not see Haxu again, because probably he had another trick off his sleeves.
Yeah, absolutely. This is what's great with League of Legends. We've had some meta picks up to now, right? Picks that always would come back, or bans that would come back. We've had, for example, Karma, Maokai, Caitlyn are, in my opinion, some great examples there, because they are always almost banned or picked. But then there is always the factor of, this is a bit of a weird pick that I'm really comfortable on and that I can really pull off in this situation, that you can't expect it necessarily as a team. I mean, you can do all the scouting you want. You can watch as many games as you want from that player. You might not expect it in such a game and not be prepared for it, and then it just comes like a roller coaster and it just takes you with you, and it can work really well. Of course, as you said, always a double-edged sword, and you need to be mindful for that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think if we want to talk about some players to watch, well, I mean, I started with Haxu, but especially like if when we come to the second match of today, if I just look at Aroma and like their playstyle and like Mark on the top lane, who almost always just plays those crazy split pushers, and then last week just played tanks. I think he played Sejuani once or twice, and the weeks before that he just played the crazy Fiora, who where he just outplayed Repass and the 1v3 tower dive, where he got even our MVP of the week. So I think we have so many really strong players in this league, and they always just go for those crazy outplays, or just even consistent good plays, like Scalan, for example. I mean, this man is on a mission, built his own dynasty in Dynasty. I mean, that's always the joke I want to make, and like he exactly knows when and where to be, and like carries the whole early game of Dynasty. So he's just really a strong, amazing dude, and in the end, like he and others, of course, and other teams just really make this whole league as a whole really nice to watch, just because we see so many great individual plays and so many great like team plays and decisions. And I think that was something we last week talked about together, that we always see like those cross map plays. Those teams definitely know when and where to make something, and if the enemy team has a small edge and gets the Drake for free, then we see at least the Herald or at least a tower dive for top lane or something. So we are really on a great competitive level in this league, and those teams, especially like the teams on the top, play so phenomenal together, that every single match day is really just amazing to see and amazing to cast.
Yep, absolutely. Lots of very good teams with most of them really good team cohesion and very good players all throughout. And I think you did well to mention Scan there. I feel like jungle-wise, we have like really good players all over, which is very important, of course. Jungle being such a, well, saying it's a central position feels kind of off, because they're very central, but they're like all over always, right? Such an important role in League of Legends. Having a good jungler makes so much, such a difference, and they're all over. You've mentioned Scan, but Gabush from Oma, of course, also to be mentioned. The same goes for Liao from Rift Sloths. I remember Trinket from Rebus also doing some really good stuff here and there. So absolutely insane junglers we've got here, and I think also in the mid lane we've had some really great players. We have Merlin from PERTINAX, which we should see playing soon, hopefully. Who just, as we always say, his name fits him so well. He's a real magician in that mid lane, just pulling tricks after tricks, doing crazy stuff, doing those Orianna shockwaves last Friday. Oh my god, those were completely insane. We also have Lolo on the side of Reapers. We're going to have two really great mid laners in this matchup, PERTINAX versus Reapers. So definitely looking forward to that matchup. We also have Bakan of Rifslovs, of course, who is a complete menace. We've seen him quite a few times on stuff like Yone, for example. A complete monster on that.
Yeah, definitely. Like I really like those Arthi against Yone matchups, where we just saw those those crazy Yon players. I think it wasn't not just Bukan, but I think there was another Yon player in the mid lane, and they just crushed this matchup. And that's always like the beauty in those drafts. If you just leave one of your best players like the counter pick, and he just gets a really good matchup and just take over the lane. But you already like talked a lot of about the jungle players, and I think especially in this matchup, like Trinket against Makula, I think it's really close because both junglers, at least in my opinion, are like middle of the pack junglers. It's not like a Garbage or like a Skellen or even a Lamau who in my opinion are like the top 3 junglers of the league. And not even not just because they are in the league, but just individual. I think they are really like the 3 strongest junglers, and then Trinket and Makula really need to like show in this match who is the better jungler and who gets onto the 4th spots. Because now we finally start into this draft. We needed to wait a little bit, but in the end, it's finally starting. So, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this first pick and ban phase of today. And yeah, we already like see some surprise bans and some like old favorites, like the Karma and Olaf against Reapers. Just 2 bans you really need to make.
Yeah, I think we've seen Lolo on his Karma really strong, and I think we've seen Wind on Olaf also very strong. Another classic, the Maokai ban, and then some, I'd say less favorable, but bans we've seen already more or less often here with the Akali, the Bard ban against Bondo, which you've mentioned is new here, so
yeah. And I really like the ban against Bondo. Just he sees a Bard main, and you just don't want to risk to play against the Bard. I mean, if he hits one good ultimate, game could be over. But he is hit or miss anyway. But just respecting the new player from PERTINAX definitely makes sense. And I really like the first pick up, the Tsaya, who is maybe one of the strongest ADCs on this patch on almost every single elo. So definitely a good pick up there for the Reed MG. And then there's like the Chase flex pick for Reapers already, so either Lawlaw or of course Wind. I don't know, I think we need to swap the 2 team names on the top. So it's either the Chase pick for Dizzle Drop and Merlin, of course. And there could be a Sejuani for Makula or even for Dizzle Drop. So we have a lot of flex picks there coming out for PERTINAX.
yes, absolutely. And really important here in a matchup where both teams are really close is to keep your cards a bit hidden. Flex picks are a very strong tool in here, especially since they do get the red side, they get the last pick, they can get that counter pick in. So not having locked in positions is always a good thing to have.
Yeah, like, and especially on red side, where you have like the last pick, and they can really use those flex picks for the last possible second. So to just choose the better matchup for your laners, for example. So definitely a good pickup there. And Lono gets his Rise. So some scaling there in the mid lane. Because he played it a little bit in solo queue. And then there's the Zac. And Zac, especially against Sejuani, like she can stop you while you are flying into your people. So Sejuani's a little counter at least with the W and with the dash to stop the jump from Zac. But still, especially like if you find a good angle, you can always engage with Zac from all brushes into all lanes. It's so difficult to play against if you have no vision. And there is the Rakan coming out for PERTINAX. So they picked away the Rakan from the Tsaya, which kind of surprises me that you don't pick like the Rakan for Reapers, but usually you want like the better support matchups, for example, and then you wait a little bit just to counterpick maybe the support, and instead of banning it away for PERTINAX, they just picked it away in the end, which gives them a little bit more like engage with the Sejuani together. And I quite like the Rakan but the Tsaya is strong as well. So good to see them both in this game, even though they play against each other.
Absolutely. I am also a big fan of that Rakan pick here. Fits in really nicely with that Sejuani. This can get already very explosive. And Size of Reapers, we also have a Zac, which I don't think we've seen yet. I don't remember casting a Zac. I always love seeing Zac because, I mean, it's just so fun to look at him jump around and squish everybody and just gank from completely insane range. So that's fun. We just saw, I think, PERTINAX missing out on that ban. I believe they had a few latecomers, and they got a few bans taken away because of that.
Yeah,
nothing to worry about.
And I think that's one of the reasons why we see like the Rakan pick, just because they knew they couldn't ban it, so they need to pick it away to not play against it. And then we have like the Jax ban and the Syndra ban, so Syndra would be a good pickup against the Zac, of course, and even like bullies the Ryze in the early game, so definitely good bans coming out. And I think like Trop is just an amazing Jax player, so just getting one more ban against him is always a good decision. And there's the Seraphine, and I even believe that this could be a Seraphine bot lane. I think she's really strong in solo queue right now in the bot lane position. And I mean, and that's the beauty about the draft of PERTINAX. They can still flex everything around. Like the Chase could go mid, top, Sejuani could go top, jungle, and even the Seraphine could go ADC or mid lane. So they can just see the whole lineup of Reapers and then still choose where to like flip them and go wherever they want. And that's the Fiddlesticks. I think that's the first time for me in this league. Fiddlesticks really is surprising. It's especially like there you could see like a really good example of a flex pick. Like this Zac, for example, usually just goes in the jungle and that's it. But especially against some bruisers, you can play on top lane. And I believe he even got played in the mid lane in the LCK. So it's sometimes it's a flex pick. Usually it's just a jungle pick, but they just decided to bamboozle them and just pick the Fiddlesticks in the jungle, which gives them plenty of damage, plenty of engage. So this champion is really, really crazy. And even the Darius, I mean, look at the draft of Reapers. They really surprises you on every single lane almost with some crazy pickups there. And it's exactly what I said. It's the Seraphine bot lane who's really good with the Rakan. Because I don't know if you knew it, but if she shields and she is shielded, then the shield is just stronger. Like and Rakan of course has 2 shields, so we can always set it up that Seraphine gets the increased shielding power. So that's definitely like a good combo there. And she is still an AP carry, so they don't miss too much AP damage with Auraria and with Chase. So I quite like the draft of PERTINAX as well, but the draft of Reapers is really crazy.
Yeah, I really like the fact that at first it was PERTINAX which kept their cards really hidden with obvious flex picks, and in the end Reapers was like, you know what, our picks are actually also flex picks. Just kind of putting us off there as well. But yeah, the Darius, I mean, obviously to go top, which should clearly put the rest in place, but that was a fun draft, I think, from both teams.
Yeah, and in the end, it's still like the Zac in the jungle. So I thought they will just swap him into a solo lane and just pick the Fiddlesticks in the jungle. But actually, it's the Fiddlestick support. So in the end, they really surprised me even till the end, and that's crazy. Like Fiddlestick support was strong in like maybe 1 season ago or something for a short period of time where they like played Fiddlesticks and Nocturne in the same team just to work with the Fierce. But to see him now on the support position is really, really crazy. And I think the matchup against the Rakan is fine enough, because if Rakan jumps in, you just can instantly fear him, for example. So it should be a fine matchup. And then, of course, he just brings so much value in the team fights with his own ultimate that you can always just engage from those angles. And if I talk about angles, We have, of course, a Zac who can jump in from every single angle. So we have just, I think, one of the most important factors of this game will be vision, because if you can't see Fiddlesticks or Zac, you are likely to be dead. And so this vision is really, really important for PERTINAX in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, they've got all the jumpity dudes. They can get around pretty well on that map, which is very nice to see. You know, what I really like about PERTINAX is they have this explosiveness to them. I mean, both teams kind of have this explosiveness to them. You've already mentioned Reaper's ability to engage very strongly. On the other hand, we have PERTINAX, which also has pretty good engage with that Rakan and that Sejuani in there, which can do a load of damage. They also have a very annoying poke with Jace, but he's the only... Oh, Jace and Zarathine both could be very annoying in terms of poke. So I have to see how Reapers does against that, because if they're sussed out early enough before they get to jump on PERTINAX and get poked to death, they're not going to be able to do much in terms of engage. So I think this game will have, which it's always the case when you're playing against Fiddle and the Zac, but we're definitely going to have a big war around vision and wards overall.
Yeah, and what I really like to see is from Dazzle drop the Aurelia on the top lane, because to see such a champion like on a higher level is always amazing, because he just jumps in, jumps out, tries to go for bolos, and it's really incredible, because the matchup against Darius should be fine. I mean, you can always jump in if he tries to Q you. So with the Q of Darius, of course, you want to stay inside of the range. So you don't want to get hit by like the outside. And with that, Aurelia is mobile enough to just always jump in. And then, of course, she can just block a lot of burst with her W and stuff. So I think that's actually a good matchup for Dazzle drop. And probably Wind believed that it would be either the Jace or the Sejuani top lane. So he probably just got counterpicked there, and now needs to see how good he can outplay this matchup.
Yes, absolutely, and we should be getting a glimpse of that very soon, as the game has started. Everybody is lined up, and we should be seeing some. We're already seeing some action here in the mid lane with some poke going around.
Yeah, well played by Lolo. I mean, he got cheesed there. So from the darkness, he got just hit by a Q and by an auto attack. But then, especially like with the face rush, he could just give 2 more auto attacks into Merlin, so that he even won the trade in the end. So, and that's always good if you are the one who is being cheesed and you are still winning the trade. So well played by Lolo in the end. But especially top lane will be so explosive. Like one misstep on this top lane and you are dead. Especially, I mean, you can see it, Wind plays with the Ghost. So he really wants to make those bolos and he really wants to run you down. So keep your eyes on this top lane matchup, which could be crushing if he plays it correctly. But I think if he misplays once, the lane could be over against Aurelia.
And we can see already this very early action as Dazzle drops really low very fast. It does get some damage into Wind, but not as much. And we're already out of pods on sides of PERTINAX's top lane, so it's already a bit rough. Although with level 2 can find the aggression on the top lane, as Ghost is progged on side of Wind. He is running around. Is he going to be able to survive without using Flash? Yes, seems like he is. And meanwhile, in every lane, we have some action here on the mid lane. Merlin going in. On the bot lane, we've seen some strong aggression and some strong activity on sides of Reapers. They're really going into it in this early game. Meanwhile, Makala setting up top lane for a gank, maybe finishing Wind off or getting his flash out. He is very close to the turret after all.
Yeah, and especially like I always say it, if we see a Sejuani, you really want a melee champion for the lane or for the jungle if you play Sejuani on the top lane, just because you can proc those Sejuani passives like really good with a melee champion. And then of course the Aurelia has a lot of attack speed, and every single Q will stack it as well. So you can definitely go for those quick stuns with this combo, and then you should have enough damage to just burst someone down. So it could be really difficult for Wind to survive a gank against those two.
Yeah, definitely. So it is the opportunity they're looking for. Both teams seem to want to get a lead early on. Reapers is already well started, in my opinion, in that aspect. Doing really well in this early game here. We have a gang on the middle lane. The stun is going to land on to Merlin, but Makla is just around the corner. So is Amiel, however, and they do get the first blood going to Amiel. Fortunate that it's on the support, but it is a fiddle, so it's probably still going to be well worth.
Yeah, I mean, fiddle with kills. I mean, that's scary. Just because he scales so good with kills, with AP, and can like win a team fight on its own. So just getting him the kills is fine, but of course he is the support player, so you definitely would have liked to get the kill on your Ryze, but it will help in the bot lane matchup anyway. And like, it was a good roam. It just was out of vision and got in.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Now some bit of downtime. I somehow opened a sort of chat here on PERTINAX call, which is which put me a bit off guard, but it's gone now. I've put it off.
Yeah, that was a really important stun there. I don't know, because Wind just has flash and Dazzledrop doesn't have flash. So if he doesn't get the stun there, then probably will just get flashed on, and the hook will land. And after Dazzledrop gets hooked, he's probably dead. So really important to hit the stun after Wind just sneaked into the brush. So a little outplay by Dazzledrop. But you can really see that this matchup is explosive, and both of them can solo kill each other. And in the mid lane, there's a fight.
Yeah, there's a fight. Merlin going all in as Makla is coming in for the gank. Lolo is really close to the turret. But Bondo is also right around the corner. Getting a ward there. We might get to see a tower dive, although it is very risky, especially since he is another turret, yes. Clears the wave already pretty fast.
Yeah, and I mean, Q should have enough wave clear to just save his lane in this matchup alone.
Yeah, small surprise as Dazzledrop is coming back to the top lane. Surprised by Trinket, who was waiting in the bush, but does a lot of damage to the jungler of Reapers, but now has to flee as a passive is proc, and Wind could do whatever he wants. Are we gonna see a dunk? No, we don't. That's a kill going to the Reapers.
Yeah, and that's so dangerous. I mean, Wind getting kills is never a good idea, at least for the enemy team. And good for PERTINAX, of course. Good for Reapers, of course. What am I saying? But yeah, it's still not over, I would say. Especially with Sejuani, you can at least try to 2v1 him. But especially now, after level 6, Darius is really not that good gank. Ooh, maybe the Bolo.
Yeah, but we do get it with a turret hit. And Makla put some nice damage here on Wind.
And he has flash. I mean, he could try, but especially with Aurelia coming, you could have tried to just flash and get some auto attacks in, but in the end, Wind has flash as well, so he would have been safe. But still, was a good try. But now we see like the little cross map play there with the Drake.
Yes, absolutely. As Reapers pick up the first Drake of this game. Starting very strong into this game.
Yeah, they look scary. I mean, and especially in later stages of this match, they will just have an incredible engage with Zac, with Fiddlesticks, and if you are behind, usually you can't contest the vision that good. And if you can't contest vision versus such a team, you can't really win those team fights, because then you will just get engaged and probably dived on. So it's looking tough already, and there's a little sneaky Fiddlesticks on the top line, but he sits on 2 wards actually. He walked through the first one and even sits on the second one, so Dusseldrop shouldn't die there. And especially, and I think that's an important factor, as long as you can see Fiddlesticks, Fiddlestick will not fear you with the ultimate.
Yep,
but now they wouldn't have vision, so...
Yes, and with the mid lane coming in, Dusseldrop is in the middle of 2 Reapers members, but should be able to make it. Oh no, here comes the Q, very nicely played with the root, and now gets a lot of damage as Lolo and Trinket take a kill on the Irelia player. Bondo flashes in to try and save the day, unfortunately barely not on time. That's just a lost flash. And we saw Dusseldrop's really good reaction here, because once the ward was over in the bush, decided to step back, because as you said, then he could be feared from filled with division from him. Step back, unfortunately, it was already set up that Lolo was coming in with the ulti alongside with Trinket and then Sour.
Yeah, was a good played dive, especially like the ultimate of Lolo was well placed, that he tried to get in the way of Dusseldrop, so he needed to walk out through the brush where Trinket already waited, so was well played.
Yeah, here PERTINAX hoping for a catch on Wind. Bodo goes out, and now the rest of Reapers Switch were waiting in the bush, coming in with a lot of damage from Amiel's ultimate. They do get to kill on Wind, but we have some turn kill falling onto Bodo. Bakla being very low. Now Dusseldrop is back in there in order to defuse the situation.
And I definitely saw more kills there. I mean, it's Fiddlesticks ulting in and nobody really died. I mean, it was close, but in the end, he is just a support Fiddlesticks with not really that many items. So in the end, it wasn't strong enough to like ace them. But yeah, was a really good trap set by the Reapers, and PERTINAX just waited, I think, 1-for-1 or something. But yeah. It's still a good try from PERTINAX. They're fighting, and they try their best to get back into the game. And right now they are just 1.5k behind in goal, so nothing too bad. We just saw a teleport by Kiru in the bot lane, so we will just sit there, just clear those waves versus Saya. So it's really a weak side matchup. Both ADCs just gets to play a 1v1 lane. Both supports will roam a lot, because we have so many like great carries on the top side with Aurelia, with Darius, with Jace. So we really don't want to play too much around bot lane in this stage of the game. Both ADCs scale a lot, so you want to support your other lanes and just have a scaled ADC in the late game, which usually works out really well, just because Seraphine has all the wave clear in the world to save the turret, and of course Saya can heal herself with the ultimate, so she is really safe by just pushing in waves. So that's definitely a weak side matchup for me.
Definitely. It's already looking really good for Kara right now. Already got both AD carries actually. Bot laners and mid laners got their first mythic item over. And I really like, you can see how much Bondo roams with the level difference between him and his AD carry, which is 4 levels.
That's crazy. But I think that's a good way to play it, because like normally Seraphine mid lane, for example, is really strong, and most ADCs don't get a high level just because they always have support around them, so they don't get solo XP. Ooh. But in this type of lane right now, he gets a lot of solo XP, so he is actually kinda like a mid lane Seraphine on the bot lane right now. So we have your big AP damage dealer still for the later stages.
Okay, we have Merlin thinking he's got a jump onto Lolo, but Trinket is right behind. Fortunately for the Reapers, it does not end into a kill now. 2 other members of PERTINAX coming in, but there is the vision, and now Reapers coming in from the bot lane, so we turn around. Might get real MJ there. Now is able to close off the distance, or actually close out the distance.
It was really close. I mean, this grand entrance from Rakan almost hit, but Tsaya somehow was fast enough, especially. Oh!
And the bot lane Karo getting very low. We're trying to find perches on Bondo. The Reaper's really, really doing well right now, in my opinion. Moving around to the map very quickly. They got the first Drake, they got the Herald, were able to proc into the bot lane, get some money in their pockets that way. Now moving for the second Drake as they got Kara very low to being a numerical advantage there. Really playing well tonight.
Yeah, and like it will just increase more and more because they can just snowball it. Like this Fiddlesticks is really a snowball heavy champion just because he can always just ult in and try to get someone. And then of course like Darius is really, really snowball heavy as well because he can just run you down on the sideline, especially when if this top lane turret dies, then you have the really, really long lane, and with that, if he pops his ghost, he can always just run you down, so it could be really annoying here for PERTINAX to play against this Darius on the sideline. And then, of course, there's the whole situation with those two really, really sneaky champions who sits in those brushes and just engage you from all flanks. So it will be a difficult game, and especially with the tons of scaling Reapers have. Saya scales really well, and then of course they have a Rise, so there's a lot of scaling on the sides of Reapers, and with that, if you just let them scale, and if they don't lose the early game, then they will look pretty strong for the later stages.
Absolutely. We can be in for the long haul, but Reapers does set a pretty quick pace already. 2 Drakes done in 15 minutes. And also we can already see that sort of vision war going on. We just saw a glimpse of it here on the top side with many wards being set. We have here the gang on the middle, and Karo gets very low. We get the kill on real MJ, falling back to Feathers. Now once again, Reapers is able to grab themselves a numerical advantage while Trinket is doing an objective. They're playing really well as a team overall tonight, which is very nice to see.
Yeah, I mean that team play, and especially those engages by Fiddlesticks are just incredible. Like he just finds the targets he can ult, he just knows that he has the follow-up by Tsaya. I mean, she can just always scale force on the same target and just gets in range with for her spells, so the damage is there to kill the people, and oh, there could be a 2v2.
Yeah, we think it is the 2v1 against Wind, but we have Trinket right in there. Gets 2 people with the stun, with the Q, and a massive CC makes PERTINAX unable to do anything as Wind picks up the double kill here on the top lane.
And that's so scary, man. It's so scary because you can't fight this Darius anymore. He will just solo kill everybody off the lineup from PERTINAX, so that game could be lost already. I mean, you can't really win those team fights against this team fight comp. You can't really win the side lane against the Darius. Oh, maybe there's a Bolo.
Yep. There we go. With the ulti, Lolo is able to get back to safety. Now the rest of his team took that tier 2 on the top lane, takes a charge on that inhibitor, and in one strike here, or streak rather, they get the 2 turrets on the top lane plus a charge on the inhib. Very, very strongly played from the Reapers.
And I mean, PERTINAX was in such a situation last time versus Rift as well, and somehow did a little comeback at least. But back then they had like, I think it was Saya and I think it was Orianna for the mid lane, so they had a lot of scaling and like a really good mid lane champion for Merlin to carry those games, but especially with Chase. Chase is a champion where you need to win your early game, and if you don't win your early game, you're kinda not that strong, especially if you don't play a poke comp. So usually you can play your Chase with like maybe even Nidalee, maybe even with a Varus, just to have a little poke comp, and maybe with a Karma, for example, as support, just to poke them down and just being in a good position every single fight because you just win the poke fight. Oh, They can't go for that. And with that, like in a not poke comp and without an early lead, Chase is just really a bad champion and or no, just a weak champion in this kind of spot. And meanwhile, last matchup with the Orianna, he had like the potential to go for those 3-man wave shockwaves, yeah. But in this game, it looks rough for Merlin actually.
Yes, absolutely. They do not have those big AoE like initiation they can do. They do have some pretty good engage, but they're gonna fall short in comparison to Reapers, which alone with Fiddle and Zac have already so much. I mean, we have the Zac E, which just stuns an AoE, followed up by a Q and his ult. It's just gonna make you unable to do anything for so long. Then you have a Fiddle coming in with that long-ass fear. It's the time that CC has worn off, real MJ is going to have put a lot of damage onto you along with Lolo. And Wind, well, he's 3-1 as Darius. He's just doing whatever he wants anyway, so...
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw the animation, but Lawler now has a fully stacked Rod of Ages now. So he got his 3 level up, and he got a lot of stats from his Rod of Ages being popped. And oh no, there's the Philistix ult.
There we go, here we have the sphere, and we can see already how long that is. Now we have a root coming in from Lolo. You just can't escape the Reapers right now. This game, they're true to their name.
Yeah, especially like Fiddlesticks is true to that name. I mean, what is more a Reaper than like Fiddlesticks? I mean, he is kind of a Reaper.
Here we have the tower dive on the mid lane. Might be the kill on Wind. No, he is able to get away in time, and they're just not gonna get Trinket. But that's what's beautiful about it. It's like, he can get in from anywhere, but he can almost get out from anywhere as well. Like, with that range on the E, such a powerful ability.
And there's not much they can do against it. I mean,
oh, there we go. He comes in onto Cairo, just solos him almost, but doesn't have enough damage. But the real MJ is now there to support that. However, 4 members of PERTINAX now together. We get the stun on real MJ. Cleanse is out, and we try to use the ultimate to leverage some time. Now the rest of PERTINAX from down under comes in, get the kill on the real MJ. Trinket, of course, able to flee with Flash and his E. But well played from PERTINAX to grab a kill, but at what cost? Because we can see that on the other side of the map, Reapers already doing Baron.
And that's always the risk if you go for a 5-man play on a side lane. The opposing team can just go for the Baron, and that's a free Baron just for real MJ. And of course, he lost his 2 summoners as well. Trinket lost the Flash, even Wind lost the Flash, so they are really flashless right now. So that gives the potential for PERTINAX to maybe win a team fight if they get a good angle, for example. If Rio just lands a 5-man Seraphine ult, for example, then they might win it because nobody can flash the Seraphine ult, but it's really tough. And now against Aaron, you can just siege up turrets, and with Zac and with Fiddlesticks, you can just tower dive and probably win a team fight.
Oh, there we go, the ulti from the Fiddlesticks here, doing a lot of damage to Drop, who is already forced to fall back. Oh wow, that was... I didn't know that... What happened there? Why did he... Oh... No, I don't get why he channeled that. Was that a ward? I didn't see it. He was so prepared to jumping onto them.
Yeah, and then he just got engaged, and like Creo just found nobody with the Seraphine ult. I mean, that's maybe the most important ult in those team fights, and he just missed it, man. I mean, that's so tragic. And now they don't have any chance to like win a other team fight, at least for now, and they will just get sieged on.
Yeah, they try to get the pick here on the bot lane, but that means the rest of them is alone against all of Reapers except Lolo, and they are able to put some damage onto them with help of that turret. It is beaten down, but the Reapers are forced to fall back for a bit here. This parts of them.
I mean, it's kind of surprising that PERTINAX still gets those catches and can still hold on to this game, because I mean, they're playing against Baron, they're playing against the 7k gold lead, so it should be difficult for them to hold such a game, but they actually play it really, really well. And yes, Darius. Ah, well played. I mean, you can't get to him if he just flashes over a wall, right?
Yep. And I think surviving against that Darius is already pretty good.
Yeah, definitely. We have a Drake spawning in like 50 seconds, and it's a big Drake because it's the sole Drake for Reaper. So unless PERTINAX wants to give it up, they need to fight it, and that's really, really a bad fight at the moment, just because they are really, really far behind, and there could always be a Fiddlesticks lurking. There could always be a Zac coming from an angle. So you really need to be safe as PERTINAX right now and just make a clean fight.
Yeah, but here we have the catch on to Makala. And that's the jungler down right before an important objective. We can be sure that the Reapers are gonna get that soul now.
Yeah, and there's no way to fight it. I mean, you could contest it, but you will just probably lose the fight, lose the soul, lose the game. So no way to contest it. And now if we just check the itemization from PERTINAX, you are not seeing a single anti-heal right now. So they are just playing against the full soul, which is just really hard to win. I mean, Zac is almost unkillable with the soul. Darius is kinda unkillable with the soul as well. Even Lola, I mean, he has almost like 4,000 HP and no even regeneration, so it's... I don't think that you can win anymore. It's really tough for PERTINAX, but that should be a unlosable lead right now for Reapers.
Yes, absolutely. Unless they do a grave mistake, or we have another situation like PERTINAX had with playing against Rifslovs last week, that they're able to push them back in the base, get 2 aces in a row, might change the situation. Here we have Amiel picking onto Merlin casually, who barely doesn't get that turret. That turret is like literally hanging there by a thread, but with that wave, shouldn't be standing for too long. There we have.
Just as a reminder, that's the support against the mid laner. I just want to say that. I mean, it's the support against the mid laner, and he can just one-shot him.
Prisoners of a Philistine. In the meantime, PERTINAX trying to look for that pick onto Lolo, which should be able to function. Is he going to be able? No, this CC chain is too big. He shouldn't be able to find a window to ulti out of there. They do get the pick on him.
I mean, there was a time where he could have survived, but it got nerfed. It was a time where Ryze could just press Sonia's in the ultimate and still would get out of the situation. But now Sonia counts as CC, so he will get CC'd and the ultimate will stop. But back then, I mean, maybe season 9 or something, you could get out of such a situation with ulting and Sonia's.
I thought Trinket was going to look for the engage there, but went for the turret, which works as well. That top lane turret down, they can now at some point easily get that in
There's
hit.
a base race.
There's a race base going in. Dossel drop on the bot lane. We have the engage here from Amiel as PERTINAX is trying to win some time for the top laner. Gets that turret with the objective bounty. Is going to back as Lolo also backed right now to interrupt that push. We get the inhib on sides of Reapers without too much issues. Sustaining some damage, but that's not too bad. Yeah.
I mean, just imagine it would be an Aurelia with like 4 or 5 items. Then he would just crush the turrets, but he just had Blade of the Ruined King and 1 Longsword or something. So he just had 0 damage against this turret. And with that, they couldn't really go for a base race. But still, I mean, 1 more turret is 1 more turret. And now they engage on Sejuani.
Yes. But find Res of PERTINAX is right behind to find some help. We jump onto Lolo here on sides of Düsseldorf and we get the ultimate to root the enemy. But Düsseldorf now in the middle of Reapers is going to have to believe in himself quite a lot. But no, he does die. Wind is now very close to death. We get the root onto him and some damage, but it's not enough. He gets back into the jungle. Meanwhile, the Res of Reapers has now joined back. Get the kill onto Merlin. As PERTINAX is now pushed back towards their base. 3 versus 5 can't do much against the Reapers, which are now gonna, seems like, moving. Oh, and we get another kill here for Lolo with the Amiel ulti now. With only 2 members, I don't think PERTINAX can do anything about that Baron.
Yeah, I mean, in this team fight, you just saw how good the Soul is. I mean, they just don't die. I mean, you can do whatever you want. They just heal 400 life points in like 3 seconds, and again and again and again, and just Wind keeps healing, and Trinket keeps healing, and you can't win those. You just can't, and it's so intense.
Yes, and Reapers not looking for not being too greedy. Get some push in, decide to reset for the next fight. We get that vision here with the crab. Elder Drake is in 1 minute 30. And the question is, are we gonna get that far? Or is Reapers with that Baron buff gonna be able to finish the game earlier?
Yeah. And I think they just play it as slow as they can, just because it's such an amazing and an important game for them. I mean, if they win it, then they are just 1 step always ahead on PERTINAX. So even though PERTINAX could win every single game against Aurora, for example, as long as Reapers wins every single game against Dynasty, they are just always 1 point ahead. So this is a really important game for them, and they will just do everything they can to win it.
We have a last big stand on the bot lane, but Wind already very low. Now we have the ultimate from Trinket coming in, dealing a lot of damage. NCC, we get the kill onto Wind, but now with Amiel's ultimate, it's only a matter of time as PERTINAX is getting decimated. We have the flashes falling to get that last kill onto Karu, who's trying to win some time and fleeing, but gets to the base in time. Meanwhile, the wave is there on the bot lane. We get that inhib turret and that inhib, and I believe Reapers should be able to finish the game with 30 seconds on Merlin's cooldown, 14 on Bondos, who's the first one to respawn, as the turrets take a lot of damage. Reapers take the win.
Yeah, an incredible performance by struggling Reapers, who really clutched it out in this really important match day and just won it. And with what confidence? I mean, it just rushed PERTINAX in this matchup, and yeah, just showed, tried to show all of us that they are the 4th place team, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. Reapers being able to indeed demark themselves of PERTINAX, the team with which they've been tied for quite some time. Putting them, well, into a good or more favorable position in order to get that 4th spot for the playoffs. But of course, the race is not finished because they still have some matches ahead and not necessarily the easiest one. So we'll see how the Reapers are able to fare for the next few weeks. But we're still in this week going on, and we're still on Wednesday. So I'd say before we talk about those matches, we'll have to watch 2 more matches today. As after a short break, we're going to see Once Upon a Team going up against Aoma. And that should also be a very interesting match. But we'll see that one after a short break. So we'll see you very soon.